Welcome to the Pigskin Party Podcast, the only podcast that combines real NFL analysis with a splash of pop culture and a dash of the random. Let's get this Pigskin Party started with your hosts, Brian McFadden and Will Southard.
PPP, it's time for the flavor of the week. My name is Brian. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and leave your comments below. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, leave us those 5-star reviews, and tell a friend because that's how we grow this Pigskin Party. This Pigskin Party is a little bit smaller than it normally is. If you listen to the main NFL episode, we were without Will, who was on some random highway in Alabama, driving to another murdery hotel room. Well, he is still on the road for whatever reason. So unfortunately, I know I promised it, and I know you guys all love his inappropriate comments, but he will not be joining this episode. So what we've done to replace him, and big shoes to fill, goofy shoes to fill, is our producer, Anthony Weiner. So Anthony, back on the podcast for the second time. You came on back when we were talking about the Stafford trade. How you feeling, man? You ready to be a guest?
I'm feeling good. Yeah, when I found out I had 5 minutes to hop on here, I thought, let's gather all my thoughts together and let's do this thing. So yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, to mentally switch from producer mode to oh crap, I'm actually gonna have to talk about some NFL stuff. Well, awesome. Thanks for stepping in on short notice and simultaneously producing the show at the same time. Our two guests coming back from the main NFL episode. We've got Kevin Brumley, aka the Sports Muse, has an awesome YouTube channel that you should check out called the Sports Muse. Kevin, how you feeling? You ready to keep going with this NFL stuff?
I'm ready, man. I can never talk about enough football, so I'm down. Let's get it.
That's awesome. That's my kind of guest right there. I could talk about football 365. And our next guest, Jack Dorfsman, who is a huge Jet fan and also a contributor for the Jet Press, just did a Jet deep dive. Jack, how you feeling? You ready to keep going, man?
Feeling good. Definitely ready to keep going.
Great. So let's keep this party going. So for those who are new to the show, we do a lot of NFL talk. We just did about an hour of our main NFL episode, and we're about to go on a whole segment where we're going to break down our first ever mock draft. Really excited about that. But we are never going to just have you go from one main NFL episode to another without cleansing your palate. That's right. We are going to do our palate cleanser. Just a little bit of break, a little bit of non-football related topic where we can just all take a breather and then get ready to keep going. So the palate cleanser for this week was suggested by Kevin, our guest, and I loved it right away. And that we're going to talk about our favorite sports movies. And I'm surprised on the Pigskin Party podcast that this has not been a topic already. We have an NFL podcast where we bring up different pop culture things, and we've talked about a lot of shows and movies. How have we not talked about sports movies? So thank you, Kevin, for the suggestion. We're going to each go around the horn and list our top 3 movies, and there'll be a little bit of debate and comments. But Kevin, since this was your suggestion, I'm going to start with you. And they can be any sport. We're not being specific to football. What are your top 3 favorite sports movies?
Oh, man, so this is so tough, right? There's so much to choose from. I'm going to go with 2 football movies and a basketball movie. So I'm going to go with Any Given Sunday, one of my absolute favorites. You have one of the greatest speeches ever Al Pacino delivers. Yep. You have Varsity Blues, which is maybe the best rewatchable movie of all time. I've seen that. I can quote the entire movie.
But you're reading my list. You're literally reading my list. But the third one will be different because I don't have a basketball one, so go ahead.
And my third one, which is, again, a movie that I've watched so many times, is White Man Can't Jump. I'm a huge Woody Harrelson fan. That's a fantastic movie. Great opening scene. So those are my favorite 3.
Yeah, I can't really argue with those. Like I said, 2 of those 3 are on my list in the same order. So I'll talk about those when I come back around. But I love the White Man Can't Jump. Fantastic movie, and I hadn't thought about that. It wouldn't be on my list, but it might be number 4. Guys, any comments on Kevin's list here? That's Anthony and Jack being guys. You may now speak up.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Anthony's so not used to being a guest. He's
Sorry,
he's
Anthony.
in the background.
Anthony,
Jack, we'll start with you because Anthony needs to gather his producer thoughts. Any comments? Yes, no, disagreements with Kevin's list?
I might get crucified for this, but I have not seen either of those movies.
Any of the 3?
No.
What?
You'll find. I'm so. you'll find out when I do mine. But when it comes to sports movies, I mean, I'm a huge baseball fan too. So those are really when I've watched sports movies. Those are really the sports movies I've watched. I mean, I've watched the Mighty Ducks. When it comes to hockey, I've watched I've watched some football movies. The Replacements, I love.
You've seen The Replacements, but you haven't seen Any Given Sunday and Varsity Blues.
No.
Wow.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna say
head
that.
out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I might. It's my show, and I might bail. So, all right, Jack. We're gonna leave you in a little bit of suspense because I want to come back to you to find out what your three are. Anthony, you're in guest mode now. Turn off producer mode. Let's share your top three. Well, he just left off camera. I didn't mean turn off your camera. Where'd he go? All right. See, that's what happens when you bring your producer on with 5 minutes notice. We get technical difficulties. So, Jack, guess what? You are up. Jack, what are your top three? I can't believe you haven't seen Any Given Sunday, Varsity Blues, or White Men Can't Jump list.
So, two of them are baseball, and one of them is football. My all-time favorite movie is Field of Dreams. I could watch it.
Yeah.
I'd watch it back to back if I could. Like, I love it. And Moneyball is another one. I'm a big analytics guy. Along with the Jet Press, I also write for a site called Diamond Digest, which is an analytics-driven baseball blog. Really awesome people over there, and that site and being invited over there kind of made me fall in love with analytics. So Moneyball is definitely up there for me. And then I also love The Blind Side. I know it's a little less. I know there's a lot more to that movie than just football, but I've always loved that movie.
Apparently, it's very inaccurate, but it was entertaining.
That's what I'd heard.
Yeah.
But I do love that. I love Mike Lower's story.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, those are my.
I can't. They're good movies, but you lost me at I haven't seen any of the movies that Kevin listed. So it's like, yeah, the movies you listed are fine. I mean, Field of Dreams, that's a classic. Yeah, I get that. Moneyball, definitely a good one. I don't know if I would put that in like a top movie, but it's definitely good. And Blindside, entertaining. But Jack, if you're ever going to come back on this show, you cannot do so until you have seen both Any Given Sunday and Varsity Blues.
I have off of work tomorrow. That might be what I do.
Nice. Trust me, it will be worth it. And watch it in that order. Watch Any Given Sunday first, and then Varsity Blues immediately following that. Anthony, let's give this another take. You're back on. Hopefully, you're in guest mode now. How about your top three sports movies?
So mine and my three favorite. When it comes to sports movies, for me, I like when it implements sports into life and love, and it's not all about the game, but it's about the people involved in the game and everything. And the Longest Yard would have to be my favorite. It's funny, it's a comedy, but if you think about it, it's actually really meaningful. Paul Crewe gets into this mess that he didn't mean to get himself into, and then now he's in prison and he's putting together a team. And I just like
now I'm assuming you're talking about the newer one and not because there's an original.
The new one, yeah. I do like the original one, but
okay, so you've at least seen both. All right, good.
Yeah, I've seen both.
Just making sure. You get to stay as the producer. Congratulations.
I won. The football scenes are it's great. You get to see these big, tough guys, and they're just kind of going at it against the refs who are the prison guards, which they don't like them very much. So it's really cool to see the different, the opposition. It's really fun to watch because they have beef with these guys, and so they're taking it out through football, and I think that's really cool. The Blind Side. I really enjoyed The Blind Side.
2 votes for Blind Side. Okay, didn't see that coming.
It is more of a
They're younger, movie. Kevin. They're like maybe it's a different generation. I don't know.
I guess I'm very confused.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's okay. Okay, continue with your defense of The Blind Side, Anthony.
So it's very emotional. And so you get to see the side of a NFL player that you wouldn't see the media cover or in real life. and so you're kind of seeing it. You're kind of seeing real life in that movie.
Oh, I think we're losing you. You're muted for some reason. Yay, technical difficulties. We'll have to wait in suspense to find out what his third one is. All right,
I hope it's The Blind Side again.
Yes, The Blind Side, the sequel. Michael Orr goes to play right tackle instead of left tackle, and so he's got to protect the blind side of a left-handed quarterback like Tua. All right, so I'll go ahead and jump into my list, and Anthony's just giving himself more editing work here. So I mean, he's only doing this to himself. All right, so as I told you, two of the three have already been listed by Kevin. Which, by the way, Kevin, makes me even more of a fan of having you on this show, and I'm definitely going to have you back again because clearly we're aligned. So my first one in this order. Actually, Anthony's back on. I want to hear Anthony's third. Hopefully, it's not a hypothetical Blindside sequel. Anthony, what is your third sports movie?
So the third one's
and by the way, all these cuts, I want you to keep this in the podcast so they can hear the awkwardness of having you go in and out.
All right. So the third one's actually golf. I love the game of golf. The greatest
Happy
game
Gilmore?
ever played.
It better be Happy Gilmore.
No. It's the greatest game ever played.
Tin Cup?
The greatest game ever played.
Oh, the movie's called The Greatest Game Ever Played. I'm not sure
It has Tobey Maguire.
Heard of that. It had
I didn't know.
Came out
Tobey
2005.
Maguire as a golf movie.
Harry Vardon.
So
Golfer.
you said a golf movie that's not Happy Gilmore or Caddyshack. I just want to. That's
Caddyshack, yeah.
like you went with a golf movie that's not one of those two movies.
I thought he was going to say, what was that, Bagger Vance? I'm like, okay.
Yeah, The Legend of Bagger Vance.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, that's the third one. That
Will
would be
Smith, Matt
Wait,
Damon.
you're telling me you've never heard of the greatest game ever played?
Is that the one where he got bit by a spider and he was radioactive?
That's right.
I didn't know there were golf
I'm actually
movies
really
besides
surprised.
that.
It was kind of a turning point in the game of golf. It was like back in the 1800s or something. There's this kid.
It's a period piece.
Yes.
Okay.
He was a caddy for this famous golfer, and he wanted to golf. But all the fancy Englishmen, because back then if you only played golf if you were rich, they wouldn't let him play. And so he kind of proved himself, and he showed them that you don't have to be rich to play golf. It's a really good movie. It's 2.5 hours of talking and a little bit of golf. It's boring as hell, but I love it.
And after he wins his first tournament, he says, with great power comes great responsibility. I think I have seen that movie now. It's
Macho
ringing
Man
a bell.
Randy Savage is in it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I've seen it.
This wrestling scene, there's some pajamas that he throws on and fights crime. Now we're aligned. Okay, so hopefully Anthony doesn't disappear from us again. Maybe this is the podcast editing you before you name some weird golf movie. Maybe we should have left that part out.
Well,
okay, because this is a football podcast.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to my list, which I started to say very much aligned with what Kevin had. So my number one sports movie of all time is Any Given Sunday for so many reasons. The speech by Pacino, the inches, I mean, that's just as good as it gets. It could have been a war movie. It doesn't matter that it's a football movie. I have found even personal affinity to this because it came out in the 90s, right around the time when Marino was starting to get older, right? So then you've got this young, athletic, mobile quarterback, really kind of ahead of its time. That was really before, I want to say it was before Vic or right around Vic's time, right? So this was even like they were predicting what the future of the game was going to be. And Jamie Foxx's character, and it's just got so much. The football scenes are great, the hits, everything about it. I just realized I'm thinking Jerry Maguire could be on this list too, maybe top 5. But anyway, yeah, I love Varsity Blues, love everything about it. Anthony, have you at least seen it?
I have not.
Oh, how did I hire this guy as my producer? Kevin, I would like to sincerely apologize for the quality of the show. All right, both of you guys have homework. Okay. So Any Given Sunday, bar none, top sports movie, period. Number 2, also Varsity Blues. A great mix of true football. So this is high school football, but there's some drama. There's a whipped cream bikini. I mean, come on, what more do you need? But there's a little bit of comedy in it. It's got everything you need. It's got the John Voight as like this old school mean coach who's just like trashes the players, but they fight back. I don't know. It's fantastic. It's got Florida State. The guy commits to Florida State. I went to Florida State, so there's just so many personal attachments to that movie. I've seen it dozens of times. Anthony, have you seen Varsity Blues?
Of course.
Okay,
Of course.
thank you. You get to keep your job. He might be lying right now, and I'm fine with that.
I absolutely love that movie.
I would rather have you lie and not say you haven't seen that than to say you haven't. All right, and my third one, because I love the White Men Can't Jump, and that's going to be right there. Like I said, I thought about the football movie with Jerry Maguire. Right, but Necessary Roughness. There's something so beautiful about this crappy football movie that I love. So I'm going to straight up assume that Anthony and Jack have not seen Necessary Roughness.
I have not.
That actually,
yeah.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, so it came out, I think it's also 90s, maybe early 2000s. It's got, so Roy Schneider is like the play-by-play guy. It's got Scott Bakula, who was like Quantum Leap. I feel like I'm so old talking about these actors with you guys. But he's like this, it's a college, so it's the Texas State Armadillos, and they lose all their scholarships and they have to like build it back up. So they have to get these it's kind of like replacements before replacements, but it's college. So they lure this old like star out who's like, I don't know, 42, but he's still got college eligibility left. Sinbad. Sinbad's in it. You at least know who Sinbad is, right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so Sinbad's in it. He's like this. He's a professor, but once again, he's still got some college eligibility. So they talk him into coming to the team. It's got who's the kicker? The model. It was a famous model in the 90s, but it's a woman. So she was playing soccer and they need a kicker. So they bring her on. It's so silly and goofy and it's beautiful.
It sounds
There's
good.
a hit at the end of the movie where the offensive lineman is like protecting the quarterback and he's like, he needs to scramble in. And literally the guy's face mask, this big hulking stereotype of a defender, the face mask flies off when the guy gets blocked. And like this just gush of blood comes out. It's like a 1 second scene, but it's beautiful. So there's just something like, I'm sure the Rotten Tomatoes score is probably like 17 for Necessary Roughness, but there's just something so beautiful about it. So I feel cleansed. How about you guys? You feeling cleansed? You feel the palate's cleansed, ready to keep going?
Yeah,
I will say, Anthony, if you like a storyline and emotion into a movie, check out the Sixth Man. With Marlon Wayans. It's a really good one. It's like kind of a crappy basketball movie, but if that's like your flow, I like that movie.
I'm going to throw in Joanna Man for similar reasons. There's a personal identity issue there, right? There's a lot of gender bending going on in society. So watch Joanna Man and The Sixth Man and Air Bud while you're at it. Okay, so
Air Bud.
Let's keep going. Let's jump into this week's flavor of the week. So I've mentioned it a few times on the main episode and earlier in this episode, we have our first mock draft. So as I mentioned a few times, we do have a single writer who writes for the Pigskin Party podcast. His articles, you can find his articles on our website, pigskinpartypodcast.com, also on our Patreon, which is public, so you don't have to be a supporter to read the articles. So he released his first mock draft. So what we're going to do on the flavor of the week this week is we're going to break it down. We're going to break down the first 15 picks. We'll kind of go around the horn, get everybody's thoughts. If we can trash him. He doesn't have any type of contractual obligation for us to say the picks are good, but we're going to give our honest feedback on the first 15 picks and maybe throw in our thoughts on any of the picks after that. So we're just going to jump right into it. So the first pick is as no-brainer as it comes. I'm waiting to see some stupid mock draft that puts anyone other than Trevor Lawrence at number one because it's just clickbait. And I would just post that guy on Twitter and trash the hell out of him. But this is not one of those mocks. So we have Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence, number one overall. Anthony, you mentioned something to me before the main NFL episode, and that was before we knew we were going to have you on. So I'm going to throw this to you. What was your random speculation regarding what the number one pick could be?
It was just
and then I'm going to tell you why you're wrong, but go ahead.
It was a hunch that I had. I heard something from someone who heard something, and it really got me thinking. because of the connection that Urban Meyer has with Ohio State, and then the connection that Justin Fields recently had with Ohio State, I thought that maybe that could change things around and have Jacksonville picking Justin Fields instead.
Yeah, that's interesting, but no. Okay. Kevin, Jack, and yeah, no, this is all reports are that I've actually seen that they're already starting to prep him and want him to get up to speed on the playbook, and they want to use this time, knowing they're going to select him, to get him ahead of even before minicamp starts for rookies. So any surprises here, Kevin, Jack, or are we just like, no, it's Trevor, let's keep going? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, let's keep rolling.
No brainer. So I'm obviously going to start with Jack on this next one because, by the way, we are the purpose of this exercise, and I didn't ask him to do this, but Ross did no trades. So we all know there's going to be trades. But for this particular mock, we just mocked the teams as they are in their current position.
Okay.
So obviously the Jets could trade out of this, but as of now, the New York Jets are picking number 2. And in this mock, Ross has the Jets picking Justin Fields, who's the quarterback out of Ohio State. Jack, what are your thoughts on this pick?
I mean, like I said earlier, obviously I'm a huge Zach Wilson guy, but I would not be opposed to Justin Wilson.
You're combining the best of both worlds. Not bad. The mobility of Fields with the acumen of Wilson. Okay.
Yeah, I would not be opposed to Justin Fields at all. I think it's 1A, 1B, and it's preference. I do think Wilson fits a little bit better in the Shanahan system. I mean, well, it is in the LaFleur system, but the Shanahan
right.
style system. But I would have no issue with Justin Fields. I mean, I would prefer Zach Wilson. Obviously, both would be on the board. So, but no, I'm okay with Justin Fields. I think that would be a fine pick too.
Kevin, Anthony, any thoughts on Justin Fields going number 2 to the Jets?
I definitely see it. It would be a good idea. For some reason, they like Darnold a lot, so I could definitely see something else happening. Maybe give the guy another chance. He's not a bad quarterback.
Okay, well, if that's the case, who would you get at number 2 here?
I'm not sure. I've like 4 guys I think they would probably go with. Give Darnold targets, which sounds weird because you've seen Darnold just crumble. But definitely surround him with a team on the offensive side, if that were to be the case where they don't grab Justin Fields.
Okay. And Kevin, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say that if I had to guess, I think Zach Wilson's gonna be the guy when the draft comes. I like Zach Wilson. I dislike Zach Wilson at the same time. I'll kind of get into that a little bit later when we get to him.
Sure.
But the Jets are in a tough situation where if Darnold was their guy, man, they're set up great because they could trade back. I said in the previous pod that they're a little lackluster as far as talent goes, and it actually, the more picks, the better they're going to be. But if they do trade back, I think the quarterbacks are going to go really fast, unless they're a Mac Jones fan. Trading backs, they're probably going to miss out on all those guys. So they're in a difficult situation. So that's why I kind of think Zach Wilson's going to be the guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if they're sticking at number 2, that means they've traded Darnold, so they need a quarterback. If they're keeping Darnold, they should not stay at number 2, and they should trade back and get picks. Kevin, we talked about it earlier. There's so many holes with that Jets team and that roster. But for this purpose, we're sticking them at number 2, so we're assuming Darnold is gone. I mean, Justin Fields, it's not like there's a huge difference. It's not a chasm between Wilson and Fields. I also prefer Wilson. I think he fits that Shanahan-style offense a little bit better. I think he's going to be a little bit more pro-ready. I think Fields has to work on specifically his accuracy and his progressions, but the athleticism and the arm strength and the plays that he can make on the run, certainly there's a high ceiling there. All right, moving on to the number 3 pick. Obviously, as a Dolphins fan, I will talk about this one first. I really like Jamar Chase, and I would be perfectly happy. I do think the Dolphins need to go wide receiver here. I also do think the Dolphins should trade this pick. I think they should trade back. There's so many quarterback-needy teams that the Panthers come to mind right away, maybe even Detroit, to trade up into that number 3 spot to get one of these top quarterbacks. But for this exercise, we're sticking with the current spot. So I think they should pick a wide receiver, whether they're at 3, whether they're at 8, whatever. If I had to pick between Smith and Chase for the Dolphins' purpose, I would pick Smith simply because of that built-in chemistry with Tua. I mean, Chase physically is just such a weapon, and I think he's going to have a great career as a wide receiver. But part of this is to get Tua comfortable, right? He has the skills. He was highly touted coming out of college. He suffered that awful hip injury. He had an up and down season. There's questions about the play calling with Gailey as the offensive coordinator, and there was just moments where he wasn't comfortable. He wasn't quite ready to run that QB. So what better to get him to at least one weapon who has shown he's a Heisman winner. He's shown to be a difference maker, at least at the college level. Forget his size. This guy can play. He's an excellent route runner. Tua needs people who can get open. He was throwing a lot of contested balls. Devontae Parker is great at 50-50 balls, but he's not a guy who can make a sharp cut and get open. And Tua just didn't have any of that. I think they were first or second worst in the league as far as average separation between wide receiver and defensive back. So getting a guy who not only does Tua have familiarity with, but is a very smooth route runner and can create more separation and make the game just a little bit easier for Tua. What do you guys thoughts on Devontae Smith at number 3 for the Dolphins? Kevin, I'll start with you on this one.
So it is pretty interesting, man. The Dolphins went from last year to they didn't have a ton of offensive talent, right? I think they kind of put the handcuffs on Tua a little bit. Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why he didn't look great. Not only he's just a rookie quarterback, but I really think they treated him like he was a 3rd, 4th round pick instead of, he's a top round guy. So with that being said, they quickly changed the scene, right? So if you get a top receiver, right, you get Devontae Smith, you get Jamar Chase, or even if they trade back, they can maybe get Kyle Pitts. If you get one of those 3 weapons, right, you go from a team that has a number 2 receiver and not really a great back to a team that now has, let's just say it's Jamar Chase. Because if they're staying at 3 and they're getting receiver, I think I'd go Jamar Chase. So you get Chase, you have Will Fuller, you have Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki. That's pretty dangerous, man.
Suddenly, it looks like a decent core. Yeah,
that's a pretty silly group of skill guys, and that's why I do think it'd kind of be interesting. I didn't even think about it, but if they would trade back to like Carolina, so at number 8, if you get one of those 3 guys, like even if they got Kyle Pitts, could you imagine like that 2-headed tight end? I mean, Gesicki is athletic as you can be. And then with Kyle Pitts, oh my God. Like
he just ran like a 4.4, right?
Yeah.
Pitts did unofficial. I mean, come on. That's wide receiver speed.
So
put him out. Put him out wide. You don't even have to put him in line. That's a weapon. I'm with you. I like Pitts.
So I definitely think that, I think they're in a really good situation. How the Jets, I think, are in a tough situation where they can't trade back, but also I don't know, unless they really love Zach Wilson, they're in kind of a difficult situation. I think Miami's in a really great situation if they really think Tua is their guy, or even if they do want to take a chance on a quarterback of trading for like a Deshaun Watson. But I think it's way too early to give up on Tua, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I agree. I've said it many times on this podcast. Anthony, what are your thoughts on Devontae Smith at number 3?
Yeah, I'd say give Tua targets. Give him a receiver where he can kind of have a chance to show why he was a first-round pick last year. I think he's capable of a lot more than what we were seeing last year, especially coming off an injury. Definitely Devontae Smith would fit.
Jack, Jets fan, AFC East team, any thoughts?
I would agree. I think, I see what you mean about, Smith being more of a scheme fit or more of, that guy that can run routes a little bit better than Parker can. I think, I don't think you can go wrong with Chase or Smith. So, it's whoever you think would be better in the system, whoever Flores and, they think would be better in the system. I think that'd be a great pick for them.
Great.
Hey, Brian, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So with Devontae Smith coming out and saying that Mac Jones was the better quarterback that he played with over Tua, do you worry, if Smith was the pick or is maybe the pick, I don't know, I'd be kind of mad if I were Tua, throwing shade at me like that? I don't know, but you just wonder, does that change up anything?
Well, my first thought was, and this could very well be a Dolphins homer, but my first thought was, okay, Tua's got an NFL job, right? He was selected number 5 overall. Mac Jones, there's mocks having him going all over the place. So maybe the Smith thinks that, hey, I need to talk up Mac a little bit. I need to get my guy paid, right? And I'd like to think he sent to a text like, hey, this is going to come out. I'm just doing it for Mac. You know how it goes. But I could be wrong. Maybe he really did think that, Mac was a better quarterback. They won a national championship with both of them. So it's not like one was more successful necessarily than the other. If that's true, I'd like to think that Smith would be a professional. Tua doesn't, at least in my, the 1 year we had him, it doesn't strike me as the guy who's really going to let a lot get to him. He just seems, he's from Hawaii. He just seems like a happy-go-lucky guy. He's like, he's just here to have fun and play football. So I like to think that he's not somebody who, like a Ryan Leaf, who just gets thrown way off track when things don't go his way. But once again, that could just be the optimistic Dolphins fan in me. I did see that comment, and I hope that was just a way to build up Mac Jones's draft stock to get his quarterback in college, a little bit more money. Okay, let's move on because now it's going to start to get a little juicy. So we have Atlanta Falcons picking at number 4, but they're not picking a quarterback. They are picking Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida. Kevin, since you mentioned Pitts specifically, I'll start with you on this. Fantastic prospect. This is, I think Mel Kiper said this is the most highly rated tight end he's scouted since Kellen Winslow Sr. So I get the draft pedigree, but tight end at number 4 for the Falcons. What are your thoughts here?
It's tough, right? Because you worry about Evan Ingram 2.0. When you get this athletic tight end that, like, how do we know he's going to be, like, Vernon Davis did pretty well, but even Vernon Davis wasn't probably worth the spot he was drafted in. My only problem with, like, drafting a tight end this high is, especially like a Kyle Pitts, he's not going to play tight end. He's essentially going to be a wide receiver who's listed as a tight end, right? So therefore, like, when you have Gronk, one thing that makes like a Gronk dangerous or a Travis Kelce or George Kittle is he's a personnel matchup nightmare, right? Because you line up heavy because they all can run block. So then you get extra backers on the field, and then you split them out wide, and now you have some middle linebacker who has no business guarding George Kittle. You get that. But when you have somebody like a Kyle Pitts on the field, you probably just put a safety in, you're going to play it like it's a passing situation. That's my only kind of downfall with this new modern day tight ends who are just wide receivers. Like I said, they're not inline blockers at all. I don't know. Atlanta, I keep seeing quarterback. I guess it really just depends on how long they think they have Matt Ryan for. Do you think he's a guy who can play till he's 40, or is he a guy where you're like, he can't win the big one? I do kind of like the idea of like a Trey Lance. If they do want to go quarterback, you go with a guy who you probably want to sit for a year, but can be an absolute weapon. So that's what I'd probably kind of guess is a Trey Lance right there.
I actually love that, and I was thinking the same thing. And here's why I do think they should go ahead and nab a quarterback in this draft, because when's the next time the Falcons are going to be picking this high, right? We see Jacksonville, and no offense, the Jets. We see these kind of teams picking high all the time, but this is not typically where you find the Falcons. They're going to be competitive. They've still got Julio. They've still got Ridley. They've still got Matt Ryan. They were not a terrible team last year. People think they were bad, but they were competitive in pretty much every single game. So they don't have a horrible roster top to bottom. So even if you have a middling season, you're still going to finish like in the fifth, with like the 13 to 15 pick. You're not going to be top 4. This might be your opportunity to nab a quarterback, and Lance specifically, a guy who is going to need a lot of developing. He's started 17 games in college, oozing with potential, but you're going to need to sit him behind somebody. And Ryan is getting up there, but he's not ready to retire now. So you could keep Ryan another 2 to 3 seasons. Let Lance learn under him. I agree. What do you about you guys? You guys means Jack and Anthony again.
I didn't know if you were going to pick one. I like what Kevin said about Evan Ingram 2.0 and how taking a tight end at 4 is definitely a risk. I do think Kyle Pitts is insane. He looks insanely good as a prospect. Immense talent, and a guy at his size that, like you guys said, is probably going to play wide out more than he plays tight end, or at least is listed as a tight end. But I do think it's a big risk. I think it'll really just depend on their opinions on Matt Ryan, and what they, how much more they think they can get out of him. Because I do think Trey Lance would be a great pick for them. I would probably lean Lance, like you said, Brian. I'd probably lean Lance if it was Lance or Pitts. I don't think tight end at 4 is the smartest move. And I also think, when you look at the value in the quarterback position compared to the value in a tight end position, you can find value at the tight end position either later in the draft or, free agency, the next year. I feel like it's a little bit easier to scheme fit a tight end, a guy that maybe isn't the biggest name, but he works in our scheme. So I would probably lean Lance in regards to that, but I love Pitts. I just think at 4 it's a little early.
Anthony, quick thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Pitts would be a good pick if Matt Ryan was still in his prime. Detroit picked a tight end in the first round, and that's worked out really well. And I think that could be a similar situation.
Okay. So I just realized we're only through pick 4, and we're like 35 minutes into this. So we're going to keep going through the top 15. But if you don't have a particular take, that's fine. We'll keep going to the next pick. If you have a strong take, feel free to voice up. We'll try to speed this up so we're not here for 2 hours.
Cool.
Okay, on to number 5. It seems every draft there's 1 or 2 picks that just seem to always get mocked in the same place. And it's like everybody's like, yep. And then in the draft happens, and that's exactly what happens. And that's how I feel about pick 5 is Penei Sewell, offensive tackle out of Oregon, going to Cincinnati. They need offensive line help. They need to protect Burrow. This is just such a no-brainer pick. Sewell is a beast. He could have the talent to be the number 1 overall pick in a different draft, right? So he's just that kind of player. So I don't have anything additional to say. Penei Sewell to Cincinnati, I think that's just very realistic come draft day. What do you guys think?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think he's got to be the guy. Like, even though Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow had that chemistry, you got to protect the franchise, man. And Joe Burrow looked great last year, got hurt because he had a terrible offensive line. This is a no-brainer.
I agree.
Yeah, good.
I think,
Let's keep it. We're all in unison. We don't have to linger on that one. Let's go over to the number 6 picks, which is Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. This is we're starting to get a little bit juicier with the picks here. What do you guys? Any thoughts on Chase to the Eagles at number 6?
So I'll start this one off. I've been seeing a lot of Kyle Pitts being connected to Philly, which I don't love. So if you're trying to get rid of Ertz and you already have Dallas,
Goddard. Yep.
I couldn't think of his last name. Goddard. It just doesn't make sense. Like, why are you then trading Zach Ertz then? I'd like to see them go receiver if it's Devontae Smith, if it's Jamar Chase. I think they both make a ton of sense. I kind of think Chase would be the one that's drafted ahead of Smith because of the concern that he's like $170. But just kind of a fun story real quick about Devontae Smith is I heard a story that apparently he's so smart at this game that he would line up in bunch formations at Alabama and he'd yell out the coverage of where everybody's dropping and who's got who to communicate it with his team. And then at the end of the possession, they'd go over and he would get with their coaching staff and they would break down that series. And then he would go over to the receivers with the coaching staff and coach up his teammates. And you're not talking about a bunch of bums. You're talking about the best. Alabama's wide receiver U. Yeah. And he's the smartest one of them all. So that kind of really shows how special this guy is. And I think you got to get somebody like that for Jalen Hurts.
Okay, I'm going to assume Jack and Anthony have to go.
I agree.
Just feel free to speak up. We're gonna try to keep lightning round here. I'm in complete agreement. Prior to some of the statements that Howie Roseman have made with regards to sticking to Hurts and at least building around him, I would have said the Eagles should be in play at quarterback here. I think Hurts showed enough to give him a year, right? You're number 6, so you got to figure you've missed on Lawrence, Fields, and the Falcons will probably take a quarterback. So you've already missed on 3 of those prospects at least. So I agree. Get him a weapon. I don't think that Pitts is the right move. The fact that you have Goddard, I think you need a guy like Chase. So I actually really like this pick. So let's move on. And Anthony, obviously I will start with you on this one as the resident Lions fan. So Ross has the Detroit Lions picking Patrick Surtain, a cornerback with a lineage that ties to Miami. His father played for the Dolphins. Out of Alabama. What do you think about that pick?
I don't like it at all. After what happened with
Do tell.
Dakota, we just go pick another cornerback. I know we have to structure our secondary, but we just lost Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay, and we have a brand new quarterback. So structuring the secondary is probably the best idea on paper, but give Jared Goff another Quinton Cephas or DeAndre Swift or DJ Hawkinson. I'd say Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith would be the best picks for the Lions right now after losing the top 2 receivers. Give Jared Goff,
who both probably won't be there at 7, so pick somebody else.
I'm hoping they are. And then there were a lot of talks too about Jared Goff actually being a bridge quarterback for a first-round pick for a quarterback. If that's the case, which I couldn't see that happening, but it'd be Trey Lance. I think it'd be Trey Lance in that case.
I think he's absolutely a bridge quarterback. I don't think Detroit traded for him thinking that Goff was the future of that franchise. I think they needed somebody. Stafford wanted out.
Yeah.
They got some draft capital for him. He's a guy that's serviceable. He's gone to a Super Bowl, but he is not the future of that franchise. So I think Detroit should consider quarterback here. Depends on how they like the prospects that are still left at number 7. Any thoughts on the Lions here?
No, I agree with what Anthony said. Obviously he knows a little bit more about the Lions than me, but I would agree that after losing Galladay and Jones, you have to add to the wide receiver room. You have to add to weapons for Goff or, the future of whatever quarterback he's the bridge to. Like you had said when he had mentioned Smith and Chase, they're probably both going to be off the board at 7. I think Jalen Waddle would probably be a really nice pick for them at 7. I don't know how Anthony feels about that, but I feel like if Chase and Smith are off the board, that's probably wide receiver 3.
I could also see them trading back too.
That's what I was thinking.
To be honest, if they
and just to get those guys, the earlier guys.
Well, they're another team that has a lot of holes, right?
Yeah.
Detroit is not 1 or 2 players away from competing, so you need to amass more draft capital. You're not high enough to get one of these stud quarterbacks, and you're not going to get one of the top 2 wide receivers. Right, you just drafted Jeff Okudah number 3 overall last year. Do you really want to take another DB in the top 10 this year? No, I think if the draft plays out like this, if I were Detroit, I would trade back. So let's move on to number 8, Carolina Panthers. I think they are absolutely a candidate to trade up. We talked about them earlier, but here they are at number 8, and they do land a quarterback, and that is North Dakota State quarterback Trey Lance. Thoughts on Carolina taking Lance at number 8?
I think quarterback's got to be the choice, right? They've made it clear, like they are in dire straits. They just want a franchise guy. They're willing to pay a king's ransom for whatever quarterback's available, whether it's Russell, whether it's Watson. And I think at the end of the day, those guys won't get moved before the draft, so they're going to trade up. I actually think Justin Fields is going to be the guy who ends up falling down to them, or they trade up to get, and I think it's beautiful. And I'm finally glad, like I'm not a huge Ohio State fan by any means, but I'm so sick and tired of like people saying Justin Fields is going to fail just because Ohio State doesn't have great NFL quarterbacks. I'm like, that's not a real reason to hate on a guy.
How does that affect any particular prospect? History has nothing to do with that guy, right?
People are idiots at the end of the day.
Of course, exactly. That's exactly true.
But no, I think he'd have great talent around him with CMC. I'm a big DJ Moore guy. Robbie Anderson really stepped on the scene. So I got a good quarterback here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm agreeing. Jack, Anthony, quick thoughts?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
just a little
great.
depressed thinking about Robbie Anderson, but that's
it. Once again, it's the Gase effect, dude. All you need to do is just leave Gase and you become a superstar. Okay, so moving on. Number 9, Ross has Denver Broncos selecting linebacker Micah Parsons out of Penn State. Any analysis, thoughts on this pick?
I feel like that's a lot earlier than he's going to end up going.
Yeah,
I
agree.
A while ago, a couple months ago, I think he was probably the top 10 pick. But I think there have just been guys I think Olajo, I cannot pronounce his name. But there's a couple edges and a couple linebackers that have kind of risen up their stock. And then there's also, I believe Parsons is the one that there was something that came out about him.
He's had some off-field stuff. Yeah, I haven't looked into it, but I saw some headlines.
Yeah, so I don't see him as a top 10 pick anymore. I don't think he'd go that early.
Oh, I think
what
Parsons
are we thinking here?
Yeah, I think Parsons is the real deal personally. The off the field issues is for hazing. I mean, I'm a football guy. I don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest, if you're like ribbing. I mean, it depends on what it is. Like, there's some stuff that you hear hazing wise where you're like, that's obviously overboard. But, I mean, if someone's just being a little bit overly sensitive, I don't know the exact stories because I don't think the exact details are out. But I think this guy's like a Devin White, kind of breed, right? We saw what Devin White did on the Super Bowl. He's like an absolute game changer. Yeah. So if Denver did get him at 9, I think that's a steal. But you could also see corner. They've been pretty beat up at corner recently. I think Surtain's probably one of the more overrated players in this draft. So I kind of like a Caleb Farley or a J.C. Horn.
Okay, nice. And Farley, definitely the physical skills of Farley. I think Surtain is more like, he's got the mental side of the game, but Farley is a better physical specimen at defensive back. So I think there's a higher ceiling there. I agree with you there. Anthony, did you have a thought?
The way I see it, the Broncos have been successful in defensive positions for a long time, especially the linebacker position. If you are a first-round linebacker and you go to Denver, you will be successful, and I think Vic Fangio knows that.
Fangio, great defensive mind too. It's a nice spot to be in. I will say this because I am not a Drew Lock fan at all. If I were George Payton / John Elway, really calling the shots, I would consider quarterback here. If the right quarterback fell, or if I felt I could trade up, maybe not trade up top 3 or 4, but in this draft we haven't picked Zach Wilson. Right. So I mean, if Zach Wilson's fallen to me at number 9, and I'm the Broncos, George Payton, I'm looking at drafting a quarterback. That's me personally. They've got an insane amount of weapons, and the fact that Locke isn't getting it, it's not like some of these other guys. Sam Darnold doesn't have anything around him. That's not true in Denver. They're flushed with weapons, and Locke is still not getting it done, and he's very turnover prone. So let's move on to number 10. The Dallas Cowboys are selecting Caleb Farley, the defensive back that Kevin mentioned, out of Virginia Tech. I like this pick. Dallas definitely needs to improve their secondary. Any thoughts on Dallas taking Farley at 10?
I could see it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, solid pick. Good job, Ross. You got that one right. Okay. And he will listen to the podcast, so we can give him a little shout out. Number 11, New York Giants. Greg Rousseau, edge, out of the University of Miami. Also like this, getting a little bit of extra pass rush. I think the Giants defense overperformed. I think that was definitely courtesy of Joe Judge's coaching. Took a roster and made it better than the sum of its parts, kind of like Flores did in Miami in his first season. So I think the arrow's up. I thought they made some decent moves in free agency. I can't argue with getting an edge rusher here. Rousseau, from what I've seen, is more potential than production. But I haven't done a ton of research on him particularly. Kevin, any thoughts on Rousseau specifically as a prospect?
I don't have any. My biggest thing is with the edge rushers this year, I'm not super high on any of them, but I think edge is the correct pick. So it's kind of one of those things where if you think the potential is there and you think you can mold this guy and you have the right coaching staff, then I think that's a great pick.
Yeah, you just re-signed Leonard Williams, who had a resurgent year, so you've got kind of the interior set, and we've seen what having a great interior lineman can do for edge rushers, so that could be a good setup for Rousseau. Let's go on to number 12, because this is another one of those juicy picks. So San Francisco 49ers, with the 12th pick Zach Wilson, quarterback out of BYU, who we've mentioned a number of times on here. I'll start it off by saying that I think San Francisco's in for a quarterback. I think that Jimmy G has shown that we've seen the best of him. I'm not saying he's awful, but he's not all of a sudden going to surprise us. Like, we know what we're getting with Jimmy G, and Shanahan knows that. So they've just got such a good roster otherwise when they're healthy. Like, people forget, the Niners didn't have a great year. First of all, they competed, and like half their team was on injured reserve for the whole year. So they could really be They could be one quarterback away. They're a team that with an upgraded quarterback, somebody who runs that Shanahan offense more efficiently and more accurate, works well on the play action. You could be right seeing the Niners right back competing for a Super Bowl. So I like to pick a quarterback. I don't see Wilson falling to number 12 at all.
I'd be shocked if he fell past the Falcons. I feel like
so. Let's just talk about this then. Do we think that San Francisco is in for a quarterback in general here?
Yeah.
I actually think this is the absolute perfect location if we would see a trade for Deshaun Watson. Like, this is like my dream. Like, I want to see Deshaun Watson with Kyle Shanahan. But
that would be like, I would bet. I don't bet on the Super Bowl, and I certainly don't do it before the season starts. I would put a wager on San Francisco if they landed Deshaun Watson. That's just take, I'm going to win whatever I bet on that. So 100% agree. If Zach Wilson falls that's a no-brainer. Sign him. The Giants should take Zach Wilson if he falls to number 11 instead of Daniel Jones, but that's neither here nor there. But I don't think Wilson will fall, but I could see the Niners trading up number 7 or number 6. Some of those picks right there, I could see as landing spots. I don't know that they're going to be able to trade all the way up to 3. I think Carolina will get that, but I could see them trading into the top 10 to get someone. Number 13, the Los Angeles Chargers. Rashawn Slater. Actually, a lot of people have started to move Slater closer to Sewell. And I've heard a lot of good things about Slater as a really solid offensive line prospect with a bright future in the NFL. So the Chargers getting him at number 13, protecting Herbert, Northwestern. I really like this pick.
No-brainer pick.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. Straightforward, no analysis. Ross, you got another one right. Congratulations. I think we're up to like 4 now. Number 14, the Minnesota Vikings pick Kwity Paye. I could be butchering that name. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not familiar with this player. Did I get it wrong?
I don't know how to pronounce his name either. That's all. I was
okay,
like,
good.
Know.
Good. I'm not the only one. Kwity Paye, who's an edge rusher out of Michigan. The Vikings definitely need pass rush. So once again, this is a question of I don't have a lot of info on the prospect themselves, but I like going edge here for Minnesota. Defense was certainly the liability with Minnesota last year, which is rare to hear that about the Vikings. It's usually the defense is one of their strengths. Defense secondary certainly needs help as well, but in this scenario, both Surtain and Farley are off the board. Who was the other defensive back, Kevin, that you mentioned as a prospect that you like?
It's Joe Horn's son, J.C. Horn from South Carolina.
Joe Horn's son. Nice. Okay. Would you like to see? You think the Vikings? Do you like edge here? Do you think they should go for a defensive back? Is this a little bit of a reach for Horn?
We know that Zimmer loves drafting corners in the first round,
exactly.
So
that's why I'm saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, we could see a J.C. Horn right here, but it definitely 100% has to be defense. If we do see with the off the field stuff, Parsons slipping a little bit, that would be an awesome location for him.
Oh yeah,
because he's kind of like an Anthony Barr. Yeah, exactly. So no, I think it's defense, but I think edge, linebacker, DB, whatever. It just has to be something on defense.
Best defensive player available, I think, at that point for the Vikings. Yep. Jack, Anthony, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I was gonna say. It might be a little bold. I just had a couple thoughts on Horn and Paye. I think Paye is gonna go before Rousseau. I think over the last, and it might be bold, and it might not happen. Obviously, we have no clue what NFL GMs are thinking, but it seems that way. That Paye is kind of. I think people are starting to realize that Rousseau is more of a project. The potential and the ceiling are really high. I love that Kevin is on the J.C. Horn train because that is my dream to fall to 23 at the Jets. I love J.C. Horn. I think I'd take him before Surtain, honestly. I would still stick with Farley as maybe cornerback 1, but I love Horn, and I really hope he falls to 23. I don't think he will, but yeah, just...
Okay, good to know. So let's move on to the last pick that we're going to definitively analyze, and then I'll go around the horn and let you guys give some other picks like the Jets at 23. The New England Patriots at pick 15, selecting wide receiver Jalen Waddle. I'll start with this one. I agree that the Patriots need a wide receiver, and I think Waddle is electric. I don't see the Patriots selecting a wide receiver this high. I've said before that I think this is Bill wants to draft a rookie quarterback, which means he's going to need to draft one in the first round. It's cliche, but Mac Jones, the Saban ties, Belichick ties, The guy even looks like he's got the Tom Brady body. If you've seen the pictures of Mac Jones with the shirt off, it's like, okay, it's Tom Brady 2.0, and whatever Belichick's doing right now with free agency, there's a few screws loose. So I could just see him like, ooh, that's my Tom, the next generation of Tom. Let me get him in here. I love Waddle as a prospect. I think he has a little bit of that Tyreek Hill in him, and that kind of that speed, that explosiveness, that you just get the ball in his hands and he turns a 5-yard slant into an 80-yard touchdown. But I don't see New England picking him.
Yeah, on my channel, I was getting ready to break down Waddle, and I started watching some of his tape, and I'm actually not super duper high on him. Like, I think he has a lot of plus side. I think the thing that people forget about, like, we want to compare every fast guy to Tyreek Hill, and like Tyreek Hill is an exceptional wide receiver. And what I mean by that, for a small guy, he's great at 50-50 balls. He's a great route runner. I mean, he has that electric speed, which separates everything, but he's actually just really fundamentally sound. But yeah, Mac Jones does make a ton of sense here. I could even see Bill Belichick calling him Tom Brady. Like, he'll just be like, hey, Tom, come over here. Which would make me happy.
Yes, it would. I hope that the hot mic that picks him up like, hey, Tom, come over here, run that play again.
So, no, I think that would make a lot of sense. Even if they thought that Mac Jones might get taken a little bit ahead, or they heard a rumor that another team's trying to trade up, I could see them trading up a few picks. They're not going to trade up high, but also, the Patriots are always a candidate to trade down, so they're really just wild cards. They could just draft the worst possible wide receiver, or the best one, and just ruin them anyway. That's what the Patriots do.
All right, so what we're going to do for the final 17 picks is I'm just going to go through quickly, and if you have a thought, let's hear it. Number 16 is J.C. Horn. So he does not fall to 23 in this draft. He is going to the Cardinals at 16. We've all kind of talked about Horn. As a prospect, I think this is a great, especially with Peterson gone, this is a great pick for the Cardinals. I'm assuming you guys all agree, so I'm going to keep on moving. The Las Vegas Raiders, as they should be at this point, are drafting an O-lineman, Elijah Vera Tucker, who's out of USC, number 17. Number 18, the Dolphins select Jalen Phillips, who is the other edge rusher out of Miami, who's supposed to be a little bit more reformed than Rousseau, maybe not as physically gifted. I actually don't like this pick for Miami. We could certainly use a bump in edge. I mean, most teams can, but there's better needs. Our needs are on the offensive side of the ball. We had one of the top defenses in the NFL last year, and with our second first-round pick, I think I'm not a fan of going running back. I know that Najee Harris, keeps getting put, but he's Alabama, yada yada. I don't want to pick a running back this high. I would like to pick an O-lineman. The Christian Rashad of Virginia Tech, somebody else to really shore up that offensive line, because we're going to get to a weapon, right? We got that first. We need to shore up his protection. Number 19, the Washington football team drafting, and guys, stop me if you have comments on any of this, because otherwise I'm just going through lightning fire. Okay, Anthony, go.
A safety this late, especially the best safety in the draft, I think he's going to be picked earlier, and Washington's going to have to reconsider. When you have a safety that good, you have to pick him early, and so I don't think Washington will even get the chance.
Okay. And I think that's a luxury pick for Washington on defense, especially signing Williams. I mean, that defense that's going to be a top 5 defense in the NFL next year. So adding a safety it's a luxury pick. It's funny to think of the Washington having a luxury pick. They're not quite in a position to draft a rookie quarterback. That might be intriguing, but I don't think they're going to have anybody at 19. Maybe they draft like a Kyle Trask in a later round or something and like develop him behind Fitzpatrick. I'm not a Trask fan. I saw Kevin make a face. I'm just saying, it could be interesting. Obviously, Fitzpatrick's got 1 or 2 years left. Number 20, Chicago Bears do draft an offensive tackle, Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech. Indianapolis Colts at number 21, drafting a cornerback, Tyson Campbell out of Georgia. Any thoughts, Kevin? Do you know anything about Tyson? I don't have a lot of info on him.
I don't. The Colts are going to be kind of an interesting one because, like you said, their defense was pretty stout last year, and they probably overperformed by a little bit. Offensively, I think they're starting to get some weapons, but I think you might see like a Bateman pick here, or if Waddle would fall for whatever reason, or Torrey, is that the receiver from Florida?
Tony.
That's what it is. I couldn't think of it. That could be a pick here, but I kind of see them maybe getting another weapon on offense.
I actually agree with you there. I do think that's the bigger need. I mean, I think Pittman had a great rookie season. Obviously, T.Y. Hilton is gone, but I don't. They want Carson to succeed. They've got a fantastic offensive line. Tight ends could use an upgrade, but there's nobody in tight end at pick 21. But there is a deep wide receiver class, so I like Bateman here. I think he's shown some amazing hands, and he's a player who could have a very high ceiling. Or Tony, who has had some issues with drops, but he's a very good physical specimen. But yes, I'm with you, Kevin. I would go offense here. All right, number 22, Tennessee Titans. Defensive line, Christian Barmore out of Alabama. Get a nice Bama guy to fit in on that Tennessee defense under Vrabel. Can't argue with that pick. Jack, the Jets, Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle to go on the other side of Becton. He is out of Michigan. What are your thoughts on that one?
I've seen, because when I went through the mock draft, when you sent it to me, I did see that, and that's actually not the only time that I've seen Mayfield mocked to the Jets. I don't see them going tackle at 23. I don't see them going O-line at 23. I think they're hoping. I could see a wideout. I feel like some of these wideouts, St. Brown, Tony, Moore, I feel like some of them are going to end up being late first-round picks that people don't expect. Like some of these guys that people think are going to slip into the second don't. But I don't know if I see them going tackle or guard quite yet. I know we're obviously only doing the first round, but if I could just throw in, I do see them going guard in the second. I think my dream pick for that would be Wyatt Davis, the guard. But yeah, I think 23 is a little early for them to go tackle, just with the fact that they spent their first last year on one, and I don't think it's as dire a need as guard. So I could see them going wide out there. If they don't go corner at, they won't go corner at 2, obviously. So I could see them going corner if one of these guys falls.
Yeah, this is another one of those teams where I could see them going playmaker. And if there's a solid wide receiver on the board here at 23, you got to get that because we've already said it. We don't think the Jets have a true number one. Try to draft a rookie that could potentially fill that role. Let's keep on moving. Kevin, the Steelers fan. Ross has the Steelers drafting defensive back Eric Stokes out of Georgia. Thoughts on this?
I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense right now with the cut of Steven Nelson this morning.
Which happened today. Yep.
Yeah, so that would make a whole lot of sense. I actually think this is probably a pretty good spot for the Steelers.
And we lost him. Okay, so we will keep going, and we'll just get come back to him and get his thoughts on the Steelers. All right, so number 25, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Kadarius Toney, wide receiver out of Florida. I mean, yeah, you got Lawrence with the number 1 overall pick. Get him a weapon. Meyer has ties to Florida, obviously being the former coach of the Gators there. So I definitely could see this as a fit there. Number 26, Cleveland Browns select Jeremiah Owasu Coramoa. I think I got that one right. Linebacker out of Notre Dame. Browns definitely could use some upgrades on the defensive side of the ball, so I like them going. I don't know much about the prospect, but I like them going Browns
I like this
here.
One a lot. I watched this guy play all season, and he definitely has that moxie that the Cleveland defense needs. I definitely like this pick.
Okay, awesome. Number 27, this is, I think, another one of those no-brainer picks if he falls to here, is Baltimore Ravens select Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. So we've already talked about him. I really like his ceiling, his potential here. Seen him make some sick one-handed catches. And Baltimore desperately needs a wide receiver. Now, there's a question of how do they use him, right? Are they going to stick to the run-heavy offense? Maybe it's an offense where a wide receiver doesn't necessarily get to shine. But I think Marquise Brown is a very solid number 2. And I think he would actually be elevated by having a true number 1 wide receiver on the other side to get defense's attentions. Are you guys in agreement there?
Yeah.
I saw nods going around.
I think why
awesome.
Definitely.
Yep. Number 28, the New Orleans Saints select Levi Onwazurike, who is a defensive lineman out of Washington. I mean, they just lost Sheldon Rankins, Trey Hendrickson as well. So getting a defensive lineman makes sense. I'm going to backtrack because Kevin has rejoined us in the middle of talking about the Steelers. What was the insightful thing that the podcast cut you off when you were talking about cornerback at 24 for Steelers?
So I was saying it makes a lot of sense with Steven Nelson getting cut this morning. I think this is actually a perfect location for the Steelers to potentially trade back because, they do have a few holes, as far as, maybe Cam Sutton could move to the outside corner, then they're missing a nickel back, and that's usually a draft, as far as like a third-round pick. So they trade back a few. They could acquire another third-round pick and get somebody. Also, I'm never a huge fan of drafting a running back in the. So if they trade back to like maybe early second, Javonte Williams could be a choice. Najee Harris if he's there, ETN. So there's a lot of choices. So we'll just kind of see as far as that.
All right, so let's keep on going. We only have a few more picks left. So number 29, the Green Bay Packers select linebacker Zaven Collins out of Tulsa. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of insight into this. It seems pretty straightforward. Once again, the Packers don't draft a wide receiver for Rodgers in the first round. So that's probably realistic, even though I don't necessarily agree with the pick. Buffalo Bills at number 30 select Jason Owe, edge out of Penn State. Bills definitely need to increase their pass rush. So definitely got to, they couldn't get to Mahomes in the AFC Championship game. Getting an edge rusher here, that's how they're going to be able to compete with the Chiefs in the AFC. Speaking of the Chiefs, they select Tevin Jenkins, offensive line out of Oklahoma State. Also a no-brainer. They lost both of their tackles, so they're going to need to upgrade their offensive line badly. They lost out on Trent Williams in free agency, so definitely at least the right position here. And then finally, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do you upgrade when your whole offseason play was, as Kevin said earlier, just getting the band back together? And that is Greg Newsome at cornerback. So early on in the season, they definitely improved. But early on in the season, they definitely had some troubles defending the pass. So getting an additional cornerback makes complete sense. All right, we have done it. The first Pigskin Party Podcast mock draft is in the books. Thanks to Ross Crawford for writing that up for us. He will be doing additional mock drafts. We will also do our own mock draft special where we will mock draft on an episode closer to the draft. We'd love to have Kevin, the Sports Muse, back for that episode. So stay tuned for that. We're hoping to do that maybe a couple weeks out. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much for sticking in. If you listen to the NFL episode in the flavor of the week, as always, please make sure to subscribe and tell your friends so that we can keep growing this Pigskin Party. We're up to, I believe, 27 total 5-star reviews on iTunes, still batting 1,000 there. So really thankful for that. Check out our Patreon and our Discord in the description for the episode. Find us on social media at Official PP Pod. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week on the PPP.